right, listen.
What a game.
Only taken about 25 years, but they look like they're ready.
Why throw slight?
I'm telling you the truth, man.
Why
It's
throw
taken
slight?
them a minute, but they look good. You don't think they look good? They look real.
Who was that?
Cowboys.
The Cowboys.
Oh, yeah, solid. I mean, they played on the road, trap game. They did their job. Got out of there with a W. What else you can complain about? You know, tell me that the head coach called bad clock management. Is that what we're getting ready to start?
Yeah.
Try to nitpick and find a reason to complain
that's
about.
That's later in the show. That's later in the show.
I mean,
they look like the real. They're the real deal, man.
To me, for so long, obviously, New England had a guy who won all those close games, right? But you look at what Dak did. 3rd and 20, what was it? To get him in field goal range, 25, and he was good for about 22 of those yards right there. They kicked the field goal. And then even in overtime, there was a 2nd and 9. He picks up the first down. Like, now Dallas, like the guy that the Patriots used to have, a guy like that, Dallas now has.
But Dak's been doing this since he entered the league, though.
Some version of it.
They just haven't been able to put wins together other than his rookie year. They haven't been able to compile these wins like this. They haven't been able to go on the road to a hostile environment like a New England, even though New England has a young quarterback, but they still got a coaching staff that, for the most part, are going to coach these guys up to the best of their ability. But Dak Prescott is Dak Prescott. There's a reason he's one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league because he does this on a weekly basis.
It feels like it's just a juxtaposition of the different teams, right? When games will get close, those are games back in the day. The Patriots, they always won. And those were games back in the day that you felt like the Dallas Cowboys always lost, right? Now it's role reversed, and you have the Dallas Cowboys that you just felt when the game went to overtime, I was like, okay, I just feel like Dallas is going to win. I do.
I do, too.
I just felt like it. And that last play to CeeDee Lamb over the top, man, just the waving goodbye, that's the swag that Dallas has this year. It's just different.
Yeah, as long as the bottom doesn't fall out, I think a lot of people was expecting once New England got up and you started looking at it, you were thinking, okay, the Dallas, here we go again. This is what the Cowboys are built. And, I figured that beginning of the week that they would go into it in a trap situation because you're the better team. You're going into Foxborough, which, they're okay, but you're a much better team than them. You can fall asleep. And then early on, it felt like that. But then as time went by and you got late into the fourth quarter, you certainly could see that Dallas was probably, if they go into overtime, was going to come out with a win.
This is what's crazy. See, I'm glad we're talking about this, the feeling that you get, right? Mm-hmm. When you see Patriots have a chance to go 3-3, and then Dallas to be 4-2, and that's kind of like the league, right? Instead of 5-1 and 2-4. And when Mac Jones he went right at Diggs, right after the interception, went right at him, long completion. That's when I didn't know. That's when I thought, wait a minute, what's going to happen here? Right? The way things work out, Dallas not going to go 5-1, and the Patriots are going to go 2-4. Much more likely 4-2, 3-3. They're at home. It's time. Belichick's got to find some wins. The way I say, Tomlin's got to find some wins. For Dak to take over in that situation, put him in field goal range, but also that pass in, who was that to? I'm trying to remember. It may have also been CeeDee Lamb. I don't remember. The 2nd and 9 in overtime.
I'm not sure.
It was 2nd and 9 in overtime, and Dak picked up a big chunk play. And those are the kind of plays that usually, those are the kind of plays when you have a quarterback who can do that in those moments. Those are the kind of teams that win championships.
Yeah, that's why it's important when you look at some of the other quarterbacks around the league that have struggled late in games where their teams wind up losing them because they're not able to do what Dak was able to do on 3rd and 25. 3rd and 25, he finds CeeDee Lamb over the middle. Now all of a sudden there's a different situation. Now it's manageable. Do we go for it on 4th down? Do we kick the field goal? What do we do? And he put them in that situation by doing that. CeeDee Lamb climbed the ladder, went up and got the ball, and then they wind up going into overtime.
It just feels like two things that people have to get used to, that it just takes a minute to recalibrate your brain. Is that, well, the first one doesn't. Dak is definitely in the MVP conversation. We talk a lot about Lamar Jackson. We'll talk about him today, Kyler Murray. But Dak is in that conversation. And then that this team is a legitimate contender to win the whole damn thing.
I mean, when we were talking about quarterbacks last week, Key, what was conspicuous to me is you said here's a category of guys who are just different. Like you had Lamar in his own category. I asked you about Kyler. You said, yeah, you could put him kind of with him there. And it was CeeDee Lamb. The 2nd and 9 was also to CeeDee Lamb. I mean, by the way, it helps to have an outstanding draft, wide out that you draft and pans out to be the guy you hope he's going to be. But you included Dak in a group with some other guys. I want to say you said Mahomes, Rodgers.
Yeah, he's in the top 4, if you want to call it top 4 quarterbacks in the league. He's in that Rodgers, Mahomes, Brady category. The only thing, the difference with those guys is they got Super Bowl rings, but he's young in his career. Rodgers got a Super Bowl early in his career, early as a starter in his career. Patrick Mahomes early, Brady early. Now it's time for Dak Prescott to get one early.
That's what I'm saying. It just feels like, I hate to say this, Jay, as a Giants fan, that's a whole other story, but it does feel like the franchise is overdue and Dak is the guy. And I had this feeling watching Dak like preseason of his rookie year. You want to hesitate when you're like, oh, there's something about that guy. But there was. He had the arm, he had the legs, but also there was something about him.
Well,
right
people wasn't going to give him his due, though, early in his career, because the first thing people would say is, oh, he can't win. Oh, he's struggling to win. They always, when you have success early, people try to find the next negative to continue to push that narrative. He's young. People don't win in their first. Very rarely do you see guys win in their first couple years.
Like perfect situation for them to do it.
It just doesn't. It doesn't happen. All of a sudden, Justin Herbert looks different yesterday than he did, for the last 5 weeks.
He reminded me from the beginning. The two guys I always compared Dak to was Tom Brady and Russell Wilson, but at different styles, but the same kind of guy. Good in the beginning, and then people start to think of him differently, and then he lives up to it and develops into a guy who can carry a team. But the difference is Russell Wilson has Pete Carroll, and Tom Brady had Bill Belichick, and at this moment, Dak Prescott, he had Jason Garrett, now he has Mike McCarthy.
Which is an upgrade. The dude did win a Super Bowl as a head coach. He's gone to multiple championship games and playoff appearances. It got bad in the end. Most coaches' situations get bad sometimes in the end, but then they find themselves with time coming out of it. John Harbaugh, Jay, was on the hot seat 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But then he found Lamar Jackson. Okay, and he now all of a sudden.
What about the
rest is history?
But Key, what
And
about
he's in the
Carroll
car seat.
can't
Exactly.
win? Pete Carroll can't win in Seattle right now to save his life.
what about some of the decisions McCarthy made yesterday? By the way, what about that? You're saying it's an upgrade over Jason Garrett, and that may be. He went for it on 4th down in his own 34 versus a rookie quarterback in the first quarter. He gave Mac Jones and a young quarterback hope early, right?
Mm-hmm.
By the way, and there was clock management at the end.